Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Matt with Simplified. Welcome to the Simplified podcast, where we talk all things restaurant, brand growth, breaking down complex trends, simplifying them in the restaurant industry. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Troy Hooper. Troy is the CEO of Hot Palate, which is a parent company of multiple restaurant brands, but most notably is Pepper Lunch. It's their flagship brand with over 500 locations in 15 countries. Troy was recently brought on as the CEO to help them with this explosive growth that they are experiencing. So, welcome, Troy. What's up?
Hey, great to be here. I love to simplify things, so looking forward to this chat.
Nice. That's what we're all about. Trying to make complex things simple. And your world, I imagine, is extremely complex. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it can be a lot of moving parts, right? A lot of plates spinning in the air.
Yeah. Well, just give us the for those of us who aren't familiar with Pepper Lunch, because you're in 15 countries on the world and mostly on the West Coast and kind of Southwest. Is that correct? Tell us about Pepper Lunch for those of us who are unfamiliar.
Yeah, so Pepper Lunch is a Japanese-born, authentic Japanese DIY teppanyaki. And what does that mean? We have a 500-degree iron plate that we put all of your ingredients on, bring to the table, and you sizzle it your way. You get to add sauces and spices to your dish and cook it to your liking right there on a plate in front of you. And what we like to say is you can get in and out in 20 minutes for $20. So it's an experiential, fast casual version of dining that is often a longer form, more expensive, experiential dining concept. We've taken that and made it a true fast casual. We're in 15 countries, as you said, mostly in Asia, but we are in Western countries like Australia, Canada, and of course here in the U.S. We currently have 5 locations in the continental U.S. and one in Guam with a second one opening. And Guam's U.S. territory. But we're in Southern California with 3 stores, Las Vegas with 1 store, and Houston with 1 store, with significant growth right in front of us. We have a lot of deals on the table, and we're excited about expanding across the United States and Canada over the next few years.
That is exciting. And I will say, as somebody who recently had Pepper Lunch for the first time, I had the chance to try it. I've never experienced a restaurant like Pepper Lunch. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, there's
It,
nothing like it. And we look and we try. There's just really nothing like it, which is awesome. And more importantly, it's authentic. It is actually a dish and a way of eating that occurs in the Japanese home. So that's what I love about it is that it's not a gimmick and it's not a made up experience. It's something that you could actually experience if you went to Japan and were invited into somebody's home.
that's awesome. Yeah, and for people who maybe can't picture it, it literally is an experience where the hot plate comes out. You can't touch it. There's a little paper around it that says hot plate, and it cooks right in front of you. And you stir it up. You add your own sauces, and it's happening almost like the hibachi cook that we're familiar with. But it's happening on your plate, and you're involved with it. You're a part of it. Is that the best way to
Yeah.
describe it?
Yeah, and I gotta say, every time I'm in a store, it's still remarkable. 2 things are very remarkable to me. One, how many people have their phones out and are video or taking photos of each other. It's just so Instagram worthy, as people
Yeah.
say. And then how almost never do I see a grain of rice left on a plate. Everybody eats all of the food. It's so delectable and crave worthy and delicious. So those are 2 things that stand out. And still, as a restaurateur for 31 years, it's still surprising, to see how excited people are for the dish and into it that they get, right, to do it their way and see how other people and share and taste everybody's meals, but also, how they basically are compelled to finish the dish. It's so good.
I definitely finished all of mine. And yeah, it was great. I went to the one in Irvine and yeah, had a great time, enjoyed it. So thank you. And again, it was the most personal experiential thing I've seen at a restaurant. So you were brought on. Help me understand about 1 year ago. How long have you been
Yeah, so
CEO?
they engaged with us. Hot Palate reached out to my company, Kiwi Restaurant Partners, exactly a year ago, as a matter of fact, this month. And we began having some conversations. We moved very quickly to realizing that we were the solution they were looking for in trying to find a U.S. based partner to grow their business. They had been here for over 5 years and were really trying to figure out the right way to establish this brand and grow it in the United States. And that's what my company does. Is Kiwi Restaurant Partners is a brand scaling consulting firm. We provide outsourced C-suite executives to lead the growth of small and emerging brands. Now, not a small brand with over 500 locations. When we got involved, they were in the high 480s. They've been growing about 5 stores a month in Asia. But basically, we're a 500 unit startup because the parent company purchased the brand about 3 years ago. And they've spent the last 2 or so years restructuring, getting organized, really establishing themselves to understand what the brand's potential was. And so by finding us as a partner, they really found a way to fast track growth of the brand, to really establish the brand in the highest quality way, and establish all the systems that are necessary to grow the brand. Done so with great integrity and proper care for the brand's legacy, because it is a 30-year-old brand this coming year. So there is a lot of history. It is ubiquitously known throughout Asia, even in the United States. Many Asian born or Asian first or second generation folks here in the United States know the brand. They're familiar with the brand. They've experienced the brand. And truly a lot of military and traveling young people, college age people that have studied abroad or spent time at Hong Kong University or in Taiwan also are very familiar with the brand. So there actually is a lot of awareness about the brand. And so it was just a matter of how do we honor the brand's legacy, but also modernize it and make it more accessible to the U.S. market.
Is there, and I'm not as familiar with brand, like an Asian brand that's come in the U.S. and trying to expand in the U.S. Is there someone else in that space that has done this successfully, that is a model for this, or?
Yeah, in a way, sort of. There a lot of the Asian brands that you might be familiar with in the United States are actually U.S. born or North American born. They're not actually created or proofed in Asia, but we're seeing more and more start to come over this way. Paris Baguette is one that a lot of people might be familiar with. That's a Korean-born brand, although not theoretically not exactly a Korean concept. It's sort of made in Korea, but made for the Western market, or to bring westernized sort of European food to the Asian market. And so they're trying to grow here. Yoshinoya is the largest Asian export brand in the world. They have over 1,200 locations globally, almost all in Asia, but they do have 110 here in California. They have one master franchisee. And so Yoshinoya is a bowl concept, a beef bowl concept, a sukiyaki style beef bowl concept. Low cost, usually in sort of economically challenged or lower affluent working class communities. Typically, it's a very affordable beef bowl and other rice bowl dish concept. But it hasn't grown outside of California, and we're not really sure why. But it's a different concept altogether, and it's very large in Asia. I mean, it's sort of on every street corner, kind of like a McDonald's in a way.
Yeah. What? So you're saying you guys are looking to open 5 restaurants a month, 5 locations
We
a
are.
month?
We are opening 5 restaurants a month in Asia. Five
Okay.
restaurants a month in Asia. That's our current growth. So
Yeah.
I tell people we have
Wow.
508. I just got a newsletter, which I'm about to open this morning, which will tell me here's the 5 we opened in September. Every month I've got to go 508, 513, right? I got to add that 518 each month. But in the United States, our growth plan is over the next 3 years to add 255 stores sold or in the pipeline or committed, financially committed by our franchise partners. We expect we'll open between 15 and 20 next year and get to a between 40 and 50 unit a year growth trajectory. And that's really sort of at the high end of normal. You know, when you start looking at a lot of other brands that are in high growth mode, to be able to grow, around 4 to 5 stores a month ultimately, but we're probably a couple of years away from hitting that pace.
So you are consistently, it sounds like you're courting franchisees. You are looking for franchisees to help with this explosive growth. Because that's a lot over the next 2 years to have 250 in the pipeline in 3 years. What's like your ideal franchise partner? What are you looking for when you're out and you're looking for franchisees?
Yeah, look, it's a very aggressive plan, especially for a non-native brand that has a small footprint in the United States. Now, that proof of concept has been very powerful for us. But yes, when I talk to my contemporaries in the industry, they kind of shake their head like, "No way, not going to happen." That's fuel for me. I'm excited about that. Our ideal franchisee, though, and this is how we're going to meet this goal trajectory is you need to be an existing multi-unit franchisee of at least one brand or more, and have the infrastructure and the resources, both in human capital experience and on staff, but also the financial resources to be able to grow. Our concept is actually very, very simple to execute. It's also very simple to build. It's very equipment light, and the equipment is mostly proprietary equipment that we provide. And so we're able to assure that you're going to get these stores open very quickly. So the minimum commitment is a 5-store commitment over a 3-year build. Most folks that do it this way with 5-store commitments, they give you 5 years or a year per store. For us, we're giving you a year for the first store and then looking for you to open 2 stores a year in the succeeding 3 years to get a minimum of 5 stores. The reality is most of the partners we have at the table today that are going to be making commitments here in the short term are really in the 10 to 20 unit commitment level. And so they're going to probably open numbers like that over a 5 to 7 year period. But basically, we're looking for a 2 to 3 store a year opening for a group. And so it takes a certain type of group to be able to manage that level of execution. But we've been doing this for 30 years. We have over 500 stores. We open 5 a month. We have a phenomenal resource kit of not only assets and systems, but we have a robust group of people around the world. And we are actually bringing quite a number of people from our stores in Hong Kong and Singapore and Japan to the United States to build up our experience-based, our knowledge-based team that have been doing this for a very long time. So when it comes to new store opening and onboarding and certainly the training and then the operational support system, we're going to have all the people and tools that are necessary to support our franchisees to be able to grow like that.
Yeah, so that infrastructure already exists. That
Correct.
of a 500 unit brand for this to grow in the U.S. Like you said, you're a startup that already has all this the growing pains and the systems in place that you wouldn't normally
Right.
have, right?
Exactly.
Speaking of, I guess, systems and sort of having that in place, and I'm sure that you will continue to learn this as you go in the States. What do you see as somebody who has scaled brands, as somebody who has been in franchise infrastructure management and seen brands grow? What do you see as like the biggest pain point? What is it? What is the thing that you're always just like, oh, this is the thing. When you solve this, that's when just
Yeah.
things start rolling. What is it?
Believe it or not, it's usually step one, which is real estate. Picking the right location and then having the right space available in that quadrant of a location, whatever that radius is that you believe is the right location for each store. That takes the longest. Just because you find the best location on the corner of Main and A Street, there may not be anything available. If it's available, it certainly may be out of the price point that makes sense for the business model. And so then you start to move out throughout that radius. And so you may want to be there, but there may not be anything available. And then if there is several things available, is it in the price point the business model can support? And if it is, then you go through the process of negotiating with the landlord. And so this is a very timely, pretty stressful process for most people,
Yeah.
even if you're experienced. Look, I actually have a partnership in a commercial real estate business as well. I'm a licensed agent, but I don't do transactions. But I do it so that I can help our partners in this process because it is very, very tedious and every deal is totally different. And so that is one of the biggest pain points. Once you get over that hump, certainly construction is actually not only the next step in the phase, but also the next high variable, most costly, most stressful, time consuming aspect. So once you get proper real estate secured and you get construction well underway and in hand, getting through that, the onboarding, pre-training, new store opening training, post-store opening support is super easy. That's the replicable thing that we do really, really well. But it's those variables that you have a lot less control over early on that really tend to dictate what your pace of growth can be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's crazy that you say it's step one is the biggest pain
The
point
first
there.
hump is the biggest hump.
Yeah, it makes sense. that then it's all, I mean, it's still problem solving all throughout, but getting that in place is the biggest
But
hurdle.
again, that comes back to experience, right? At the end of the day, what really matters, and this is why we're such a good fit in this partnership, is that we have helped many brands grow over many years, and the executives and partners at KRP that support this business and this growth have all run 250 plus unit brands from the executive suite. And so having this deep black book, so to speak, of resources, vendors, and partners we've worked with, we have tried and failed and tried again with many
Yeah.
vendors and partners. So we basically know what works, and we also have this cohort of support people and vendors and suppliers and contractors. So we can really just pull them up and say, okay, time to go. Here's where we're at. Here's what we're doing. And we can just plug and play them because we have the experience. We all know what we're doing. We all know how to work together. So, it is just sort of having that ecosystem pre-built that you can bring to the table and then activate once the infrastructure is ready. Once you have franchise partners signed and ready to go, we just turn them on.
That's great. Tell me this, like, what if the systems and the training and the systems from Japan, or Asia in general? What if it doesn't translate? I mean, what if it doesn't carry over into the U.S.? Is that a concern of yours, or?
That's what we're here for. So my partner Mark and I and the rest of the team have been working all year on making sure they translate, and if they don't, adapting those things that may not. And quite frankly, one of the things that we are working most diligently on is sort of taking the most time to make sure we get right is actually the layout of the kitchen. In Asia, it's quite different and a lot smaller, and they have higher output out of smaller spaces. But we here have different makeup of consumer dining experiences. So in Asia, where you might be in a food court or a food hall or even a small format restaurant in a high traffic area, they have a lot more 1 and 2 plate orders, where we in the United States have a lot more 4 to 6 plate orders. We see more gathering, more larger groups come to the dining table, right? And so in Asia, it's okay to put out 1 or 2 plates or two, then a third, maybe on delay. Here, the consumer wants to eat together. And so we want all 4 plates. So in Asia, we might have a 2 or 3 hot plate or induction unit design system that manages very well, very high volume, up to 600 plates a day in most of our Asian locations. Whereas in the United States and even Canada, we tend to gather and eat together in larger groups more often. And so, solving for that. So as a matter of fact, my partner Mark is actually on a flight from Japan to Singapore right now, and he's going to spend this entire week with both the training team and the design, architect, and construction team, walking through the operations of many stores. He's going to see at least 3 to 4 stores a day, and really understand first person. Because I've been several times, he's going to understand first person the layout we have. He's brought our blueprint with him, and he's going to compare apples to apples across the board. So getting that right. So to your point, absolutely, not everything translates. Menu doesn't always translate. There are menu items in each of the Asian countries that are different from each other, right? And there are menu items we have in North America that are not on the menus over there. We have whole steaks, right? New York strip, ribeye. Over there, they have sort of cut steaks, Angus cut steaks, cube steaks, things like that. Hamburger-based steaks and things. We have a little bit different consumer when it comes to steak or meat product, meat offerings on a menu. And so those differences are allowed for and encouraged. And as long as it remains authentic, right? As long as we're continuing with the same flavor profiles, continuing with the same intent of the brand deliverable, the brand promise to the consumer, we're doing just great. So great question. Some things do, lots, and if not most of the brand translates very, very well, but some things don't, and the brand's very willing to allow for those modifications, those updates, those modernizations for the specific market.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, as a bit of a follow-up, but maybe a bit of a diversion too. So I've experienced brands trying to do the other thing, right? Which is take a U.S. concept and import it overseas, or build it overseas and find a new way into new markets. And a lot of times recipes translated, buildings translated, but the one thing that definitely did not translate was trying to import a culture of the business or the restaurant, or a feeling of trying to take of how you motivate employees, how you create a special environment, how you create culture in a brand and in a restaurant, and trying to recreate that in a different country didn't really work. And I'm curious, like, for you as someone who you guys are starting sort of small still in the US with a very, very large accessible brand, are you building a new culture? What are your thoughts on that as the CEO? As you build this, what role does culture play there?
Yeah, I mean, so if you look at anything about me and my history and that of my partners as well, we actually build businesses in a culture first mindset. To build a business from the P&L, or build the business from tech and infrastructure, really doesn't translate to the human interest, right? And so we have a history of building culture first, and then making the systems work within the culture. And so luckily, culture is a huge piece of this brand as is. And to give you an example, our current franchisee in the United States, I think it's over half of his employees have been with him for more than 2 or 3 years. His very first manager, regional manager now, has been with him since day one, 5.5 years
Oh,
in the
wow.
United States with this brand, and that translates across the globe. Our global operations team in Singapore, many of the executives have been with the brand for between 15 and 25 years. Three of the top five executives in our operations team in Singapore were the first three store managers of Pepper Lunch outside of Japan. They opened the very first three stores outside of Japan and have been with the company for up to 25 years. And so they're still with us. And so that is more than knowledge based translation. That is culture creation translation. And there is a pride and an intensity of pride in what they and we now do, that is being translated by having them be involved, by having them be here in the United States, not only regularly, but several of them will be moving here by the end of the year. So we're going to start 2024 off with new franchise stores under construction across multiple states. And we're going to have not only the Kiwi support team that we've built, the hot palette infrastructure team that I'm building, but we're going to actually have that translation of pride and culture and specificity to the process that has been held so closely for many decades now, that when with them being here, it's just only going to amplify that intensity or care of the brand. And I can just tell you that even though the franchisee in the U.S. hasn't had that level of support, he's had a lot of support over the many years. He has translated it very well because he was a Pepper Lunch franchisee for 14 years in Australia already. And
Oh,
so
wow.
there is this love or this care, this pride in the brand that is really palatable when you go to a store. If you sit there and watch the team, nobody's on their phone. Nobody's standing in the corner chit chatting. Nobody's got their hands on their hips standing still. Everybody is always doing something because there's always something to do, but they do it in a self-directed sense of pride way. And so that really is just the translation of this care for this brand that has so much love and awareness around the globe, that people understand that they need to be good stewards of it. And I just think that a lot of attention has been paid to that, and I am very much concerned and excited to continue to emulate that. And it's just really important that myself and my partner Mark and other people on our team not only spend time in Asia, and we spend a lot of time in Asia, but that they also spend time with us here. So there's this constant connection, and everything we do in the United States, we pass through the system in Asia to make sure
Mhm.
that we are not missing something, not misunderstanding something, not mistranslating something.
That's awesome. So you're staying true to really the heritage of this brand. And I love hearing, because in my mind, I mean, the metrics of a good culture are internal development, retention, and engagement, all the things that you talked about. So hearing that that already exists and that you're continuing that along with the infrastructure that you already have in place and that you're building, the systems. That sounds like a winning combination in my mind. So I think we started this conversation by you saying that some of your colleagues maybe scoff at the at your big goals, but yeah, it sounds like you have the right pieces in place. So that's exciting. I'm excited to see more pepper lunches in Southern California, hopefully, for my own benefit.
And beyond, and beyond. I'm excited to not only expand our California footprint, but absolutely looking forward to the at least 3 to 4 states of expansion we expect to announce here in the next 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks. So
Okay,
there's a
awesome.
lot on the
Well,
plate, and we're going to see a lot more pepper lunches here pretty soon.
I look forward to hearing and seeing that happen. So thanks again, Troy, for joining me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, congratulations on the role and the success there. And we look forward to seeing what happens next.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.